Hello, uh, hello everybody I mean, hello everybody of my fans of YouTube. My name is, uh, my name is David David Andrew Clooney of 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 a sort actually is David A Clooney or or David Clooney for short. So this is my YouTube channel called um King Ken David channel. So yeah, I'm so say I'm so happy for guys for my discovery to my channel of 289 discovery to my channel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Then as it means I think makes of it lovely people that subscribe from my channel of 289 discovers my channel. And thanks to my girlfriend says subscribe to my channel. So by the way, what's crazy focus of the video of of Poppy of a Poppy Playtime chapter 2 lore episode and part 4. It's called Why Mommy no no, Why Mommy Alex is Bad. Why kids why kids meet the helpers and how the toys became alive. And like a bunch of people for Dr. Soya just made the experiment of bigger bodies in the for the uh, for his uh, for the factory of a Playtime called eventually. Yeah, but I just really I really unfortunately for a bunch of kids and still wants to play the toys in the commercial and for forever 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 to do that in the first place, by the way. So yeah, I think it's not a very good deal with about to my to my honest. So yeah 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 and it's just it's amazing, but and there's a bunch of about a bunch of kids is still selling the toys for not actually the monsters to uh, for playing with the game uh, of the prototype just made that makes like the prototype actually of experiment 1006 and it still made mommy Alex in the first place. Uh, but you know, thanks to like Dr. Sawyer, but actually the experiment on Mara, uh, you know, for Moria for experiment of the monsters of mommy Alex, the person of the beginner. of the double gamer. So inside is the game. That's nice. So I just look a bunch of people for mommy language is like I hate cheaters in the game. Like I just a bunch of people for the games and facility and about like the method of it's gonna be of the it's gonna be of the magical memory Wagyu Huggy and Star Series with three mini games of the toys. The means like of like means like of Buster Bunny like Buster Bunny, mini huggies and P a PC Bucket Pillar. What was it? I'm sorry. Yeah, and it sucks to be rules in this game, but I don't need all the rules out of this game. I'm still here at this. I'm really still stuck in the real world. Instead of the game. That's really bad, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not coward. I'm not gonna save everyone. I'm sorry. Alright, so let's get to let's get to the video. But let's say, let's say, let's say, I'm so happy for you guys for the most votes of Cartoon Reverse Bios by Populace. So yeah, that's really okay. I'm not gonna say for Cartoon Reverse Bios, because why? I think Populace is telling us for Cartoon Reverse Bios is not over. It only does for Cartoon Reverse Bios to be saved, not actually for the end of Cartoon Reverse Bios. That's really that's really that's that's really dumb the people are instead of the real world of to to make the people real. Like I don't know, I'm not stupid. I'm not cause of this the Grinch number. I don't know. Well yeah, but if I'm honest, but it's but it sucks. It's a bit of the inside joke for bunch of people for the internet or the wiki makes sense at all. I only make sense of the video of the kids at the facility. No. But this is not deep at all. It's just a video of exercises for the kids at the facility. So yeah. And I say but I'm still happy for you guys for most part of guys in the bios of about penalized volunteer versus root volunteer pen yeah, penalized 1-3 versus Patrick 1-3 and Fabulous V-Bucks Valley. Yeah. If this guy's uh, uh, so yeah, let's get to go. Alright, let's get to the video of Poppy Playtime. I'll get started. Um, how many likes am I trying to get? So, so let's get, let's get hit of So let's get to let's do 2000 like so much I know. That's got to go episode. And how many views ago? So let's get hit off. Let's get hit off 32,000 views video. That's got to go episode. And how many likes mentioned ago? So so let's go hit off. So let's get it let's get it. And let's get hit off 232,000 likes mentioned now. Okay. Alright, so let's get to back. Alright, let's go to the video of Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 will explain story series of why Mommy Legs is bad, why Kizimizi helped us, and how the toys become alive. So like I said, 3, 2, 1, go.
Mummy Longlegs, the main antagonist of Puppy Playtime Chapter 2, might at first seem like a typical villain with a weak backstory slapped on her to give the protagonist some sort of adversity and make the plot generally more engaging. However, getting to actually know what happened to her and why she became the way she did, you cannot help but sympathize with her.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me Mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But they come for games and never come back. They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that.
Hi folks, I'm R and welcome to the video. Make sure to send me your theory
Did
ideas on Twitter, which I could
Mommy
cover in the
Legs
upcoming
says
videos.
saying
This
that?
video will have spoilers. With that said, let's begin.
And don't deserve that.
At first, it might appear that Mommy
Oh,
Longlegs is a
okay.
stereotypical villain character
Why
with no
Mommy
sensible
so
backstory,
evil?
wanting to watch the world burn in vain just because her character is supposed to be so in order to make the plot more engaging. After all, she's got a name not many associate with scarred tough characters who have been molded and shaped as such due to the horrible experiences they went through. But after analyzing her monologues, information written about her, and who she was before the monster we are accustomed to, I can't help but sympathize with her and understand her anger and resentment. She in fact was a tough character who saw atrocities and injustice which shaped her the way she is now. The monologue is subtle, and information written about her unravel more backstory about who she was, which makes me believe she's more of an anti-hero than a villain. Someone who was punished unfairly for the benefit of whatever twisted plan Playtime Co. had. This takes us back to 1991, the birth of Despite its eerie nature and questionable glitches and distortions, the VHS tape seems to be an innocent commercial targeted towards children with a new lineup of magnificent toys from Playtime Co. However, analyzing a letter titled Transfer Request, the terrible revelation suggests otherwise. Mummy Longlegs, Experiment 1222, was in fact a human test
What the heck
subject
is
named
otherwise?
Marie Payne. The process of Playtime Co. experiments are unclear, and it's not specified what exactly happened to the test subjects. I have a few theories surrounding this, using some evidence in the game. At first, I thought that the consciousness of test subjects or their souls were transferred into the dolls' bodies. A bit stereotypical and unimaginative, I know, but we weren't given much to ponder upon. But
What did you say was the sex toy? A bit sorry, a bit sorry, a bit stereotypical. and I'm a, and imaginative. I
And
know.
unimaginative, I know, but we weren't given much to ponder upon. But with
What
chapter number
what
2,
type
it
of a
became very
YouTuber are you?
clear that the toys are organic and mechanical. By organic, I mean they possess certain tissues and organs that humans and other animals do. Huggy Wuggy bled when he was thrown off the platforms and hit its head. Mummy bled severely when she was squashed in the gear system, and other toys within
Oh,
the factory also
this is
seem to
body
bleed. The arm,
of
Experiment
of
1006, the
mommy
prototype,
Alex.
or also known
The
as the claw,
Orphan
seems to also
uh
possess human characteristics. The arm had ulna and radius bones, the two bones found in the forearm, while they were attached to mechanical parts. The arm also had spiraling vessels colored red and blue, representing veins and arteries in human body. Therefore, the arm, including other toys, have some sort of cardiovascular system and possibly even respiratory system, providing them with oxygen and blood. That is why the toys bleed whenever they suffer from any major trauma or injury. This makes the experiments carried out by the Playtime Co. that much more brutal and gruesome. They don't read spells or conduct witchcraft to transfer the souls of human subjects into the toys, but they take parts of their bodies, possibly brain, heart, and lungs, and place them into a toy body, but much more on this theory on another video. Marie Payne, the test subject who experienced the unfortunate fate of being used by Playtime Co., became a toy known as Mummy Longlegs. Distraught and confused, waking up in her new body, she was put into forced labor to obey the demands of the cruel and unjust Playtime Co., her tormentor and enslaver. The note explains that Mummy
assuming.
is very hostile towards the staff, which is understandable after being experimented on without their consent and forced into running certain errands just
Oh,
to further the
oh,
plans of
but
Playtime
how
Co.
does
This is
mommy
also
Alex
confirmed in one of
about
her monologues when she
talking
refers
about
to the
how
protagonist as
style
an
it would style
ex-employee
if
of
it's
Playtime
Ricky?
Co. who deserves
How
more
does it
than
make
anyone
sense?
else to stay in the factory forever and die. Something that Marie Payne or Mummy Longlegs has been unfairly destined to suffer from.
But they come through gates and never come back. They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that. But you
Oh, the means of the
were
part-time,
so if anyone
the means of the
deserves to
part-time
die,
actually
it's
for mommy
However,
Alex
it's not clear if the protagonist
for
knew of any of the
them to
experiments being
die.
carried out.
And the means like
Therefore, he might not be
mommy
as bad
Alex is
as
actually the
suggested, but
villain
also
of
is
this
someone
game.
Mummy recognizes.
How does
So
it make
after
sense?
all,
Like,
maybe he was
how
involved
does
in the
mommy Alex is
experiments.
actually a villain
Despite
in
her
this game?
animosity with the staff,
And
Mummy shows delicacy and warmth towards
this
the other
this
experiments.
is
It is
it is
described that she
not bad
acts
for mommy
motherly towards the
Alex.
other experiments
It's
and is
just
extremely
actually the villain
protective
of
of
this
them.
game.
Now, why would she act motherly to the other experiments? And why would they even need any protection? And unless Marie Payne was in fact a mother before
I
being
don't know, the
experimented on, who
OSOI.
was deprived of her right to care for her child or children, bound to be trapped in the depth of Playtime Co. for eternity. But it still doesn't explain why she would act motherly and protectively towards the other experiments, unless they needed protection and they needed a mother figure to care for them, which means that the other experiments were no other than the orphans and children Playtime Co. so pretentiously promised and vouched to care for and find a home for. But the home they found was nothing they expected. It was a dark and twisted fortified factory where they were tested on and analyzed. Mummy Longlegs, knowing the horrible aftermath of being an experiment, knew the horrendous experience the orphans had gone through, waking up in a body they don't recognize, being limited to do compared to what they could before, imprisoned in the factory forever. Mummy, showing hostility towards the staff, is subsequently transferred to the game station, acting as a guide to the children in order to contain her and manipulating her into acting how they wanted her to. Due to her compassion and care for the children, she didn't want them to see her bad side or terrify them. Therefore, she became suppressed in front of the
I'm
children,
all of the villain
protecting the
side,
body of the
not
staff. It's
actually
mentioned that seeing other children on a daily
of
basis would possibly improve
Orphan.
her behavior, or in other words, words, a will to seek justice and freedom, and she would be easily controlled and manipulated that way. They subsequently moved her to high security, calling this plan a conditioning procedure, clearly showing how Playtime Co. care little to none about human life and helping orphans. This plan is not fail-proof, however, as Mummy Longlegs in one of her monologues expands on the outcome of this conditioning plan, explaining what happened and how she felt.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me Mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But they come through games and never come back. They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that.
She explains that while she enjoyed
Oh,
spending time
exactly,
with the
yes.
children in the game station, who called her
That's
mummy
the
as
only
they never had one
sad origin
before,
of
they never came
Mommy
back
Long
to her
Legs.
after playing the
Good night, I do the
games,
feeling
making her
of
feel
time.
betrayed and unloved. Someone who
This is
gave
not
all of
good
her
as
love and
this
attention to the
game.
children, her livelihood, just hearing a fake and superficial name in return, mummy, which was empty as the children never loved her as much as they would a real mother, or at least that's what Mummy Longlegs thought. As her knowledge of what happens to the children was limited, and she didn't know what happens to them after the games. Mummy explains that the children left her to die alone, but what she didn't know in fact was that the children didn't leave intentionally, and they weren't there to just play games. The children were being tested for their suitability to be vessels for a certain purpose, possibly a vessel for bringing the deceased child of Elliot Ludwig back to life. Based on the children's results from the three games, musical memory, Waggy Wuggy, and statues, they were considered to be whether suitable or not, accordingly sent to two different locations using the train, one leading to the playcare and one leading straight, which is said to be a way out. But again, we don't know for sure, as a way out might simply mean death. I personally wouldn't be surprised at this point, as Playtime Co. is very deceptive and manipulative. Therefore, Mummy Longlegs was a caring and loving mother who was forced against her will to become a test subject and have her mind and consciousness transferred into a toy physical form. Being horrified to what had happened to her, she became resentful and hostile towards the Playtime Co staff, wanting to seek vengeance for what had happened to her, something she did not deserve, being separated from her child or children.
Ah, okay.
Despite the atrocity she
That
suffered
makes
from,
sense.
she still showed her motherly
I,
quality for the other test
I could have
subjects or
thing.
experiments,
But is
courageously defending
but
and
isn't
protecting them
like
against the soulless staff of
is it
Playtime Co. Playtime
is
Co.
it
seeing
Mommy
Mummy
Mom
Longlegs'
makes it to be
ongoing
up
pains, caring and
often
loving
in this game?
quality as a
I don't
weakness,
know.
they took advantage of her and used it against her, controlling her and manipulating her by placing her in a place where many children are present, stopping her from showing any hostility towards the staff, keeping her boxed in a place for eternity. Mummy Longlegs, or the person behind this abomination, Marie Payne, did not deserve having her kindness used against her, forcing her to become a shadow of herself, seeing herself descend into madness and feeling resentment, who finally suffered a painful and slow death, being crushed in between gears. That's it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, stick around for more Puppy Playtime Chapter 2 videos. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one.
Don't ain't there. It says more Puppy Playtime Chapter 2
Kissy
video.
Missy was finally shown to us in Chapter 2, and despite what many initially thought, she doesn't seem to be hostile and aggressive towards the protagonist. Quite contrary, she seems to be friendly and even helpful, opening the way for the protagonist to continue on his journey out of the factory. But why did she help the protagonist instead of attacking him? Well, stick
I
around.
know.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and also the writer, and the editor, and also theorizer. Pretty much the entire crew behind the scene. And welcome to the video. Make sure to send me your theories and ideas on Twitter, which I could cover in the upcoming videos. This video will have spoilers. With that said, let's begin.
Okay. Why Kitty Missy is good?
Kissy Missy seems to be the female counterpart of Huggy Wuggy, having a pink color overall and long lashes compared to the blue Kizimesi was created in 1985, 1 year after Huggy Wuggy, as of course any organization seeing the massive success of the product would also see the potential to capitalize on the success by producing more variety. It's basically the same product, just with a different color tone, with some additional characteristics slapped on them. So it was a no-brainer for Playtime Co. to create a female version of Huggy Wuggy. And this is what is just common sense. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with it. Toys in general are created for entertainment, appealing to customer demands, and companies producing certain toys are just corresponding with what the customers demand. In simpler words, biggest and most repeated lesson in economy, supply and demand. But again, something might not sell as well and not be as successful as
how
initially
how
projected.
does
Only time will tell.
how
The description for
how
Kissy Missy also
does
explains that
the
she's the better half
Pokemon
of Huggy
in the
Wuggy,
video?
which is also
How
depicted
does it
in
make
different
sense? How
sketches and
does it
drawings,
make
and
sense?
also that she is a beacon of Playtime Co policies. This correlates with a poster of Kissy Missy, including some rules of the factory, showing that she is the symbol of order and obedience. Despite her description and what she is intended to stand for, it's difficult to say for sure if her breathing and walking version, which is a clear experiment, did in fact stand for those values or not. As you could tell by reading other descriptions of other dolls and toys, they are an over exaggerated, shallow explanation of what they are, and don't seem to be correct according to our first hand experience with these toys. For example, Huggy Wuggy is said to be a man of a few words and many warm hugs, and that whenever he says something, people should listen. We know this is
That people
uncharacteristic of
should
actual
listen.
Huggy Wuggy, who is Experiment 1170. Huggy Wuggy
Uh,
never speaks
how
unlike Puppy and
how
Mommy
does
Long
it?
Legs,
I feel
and he
like
for sure
I really
doesn't give any
disagree
warm
of the
hugs.
people
He
is
gives more
not as
teeth
a
than
thing
hugs, to be
for
fair.
listening
He's also
behavior
described by
for
one of the
Huggy Wuggy.
scientists to be the optimum
It is
experiment, as he is the most
you are
obedient of
supposed to
all,
be of
and that he
like
also has
killing the
sufficient
player. Now
intelligence
you're
for
actually
whatever
of
reason.
listening to the people of Huggy Wuggy. And if I could put please.
Therefore, the NFT descriptions of these dolls do not correlate with who they actually are. This brings us to the part where Kissy Missy pulls the lever and opens the gate for the protagonist to proceed further. Many have speculated that she did it because she is designed to do so, and that she is the beacon of Playtime Co policies, and that she recognized the protagonist to be one of the employees. She instantly thought she must follow the orders of the protagonist and open the gate for him. This is a pretty good theory and very likely, but there are some details that contradict this theory. Kissy Missy, unlike Huggy Wuggy, seemed to be a little more intelligent as she showed comprehension when trying to open the gate. She didn't seem to receive any verbal cues by the protagonist to open the gate. She realizes it from his expressions. She looked at him carefully and looked back at the lever and pulled it so the gate could open. Before leaving, she even turned around, giving the protagonist a good long look, then went on her way as if she recognizes him and knows him very well, as if they had some sort of history. This fully contradicts Huggy Wuggy's character, who relentlessly chased after the protagonist just to catch him and destroy him. Huggy didn't seem to show any higher cognitive ability, trying to understand the protagonist or even explain his standpoint. He just seemed to act as a guard and on instinct, stopping anyone from entering the factory. So, trespasser, just to make you aware, while
Again,
we
that
pride
is
ourselves
not
primarily
trespassing.
on our high-quality toys and excellent child care, we also pride ourselves on our security. For example, this facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And that's one of the more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers. The biggest problem with the theory, however, that Kissy Missy is
Oh,
obedient
if
and that
that
she's designed to
means
uphold the policies, is that Huggy
that
Wuggy
means
was
like
said
Huggy
to be
Wuggy
the
would
optimum experiment
actually
as he showed
the
maximum
footage
obedience.
of
Therefore, why would he attack the protagonist if he was a recognizable
these
employee? Why
people,
not Huggy just obey him and help
these
him go through
people,
the
they would
obstacles?
keep
This
seeing that
contradiction proves
in
that
the
just
footage
because the dolls were
about Huggy
described to be a
Wuggy
certain way doesn't mean that they truly are
for the
that way.
footage.
And Huggy is said to
What
speak,
keeps
who doesn't at
what
all,
keeps
who is
me
said to
there?
hug people, who
What
instead
thank you.
attacks people. What stops other characters like Kissy Missy to contradict their descriptions? What stops her from breaking the rules that her description said that she's obedient? And if she was actually a beacon of Playtime Crow's policies, wouldn't she stop the protagonist from entering deeper into the factory? As clearly some of the rules of the factory is to never stay after 8 p.m. for unauthorized people, something that Huggy Wuggy actually seemed to obey and stop people from doing so, and to also not enter the innovation wing. The protagonist clearly enters places that he's not supposed to. Without any windows present, it's difficult to estimate the time it is that the protagonist is in the factory, but it seems that he's there for quite some time. Let's try to analyze Kissy Missy's expressions and understand what was actually going on in her mind while observing the protagonist and deciding to open the gate. First thing she does is to quickly tilt her head to one side, looking at the protagonist. Tilting head could have variety of definitions, but two major ones are showing interest and curiosity. She then looks at the liver and back at the
Oh, it's a
protagonist, then back
community
at the
park.
liver, and proceeds to put her right hand on the liver.
Not
At
going
first,
off.
her hand slips and fails to summon
Not
any
going off.
strength to
It's
pull
a
it. Second
bugbear.
time is the charm, however, as she manages to pull it. She looks back at the protagonist and turns her body to leave, but once more, she turns her head, observes the protagonist with a longing look, then continues to walk back and leave. Tilting her head at first could show curiosity of her trying to figure out what the protagonist wants. It could also mean she's showing interest to the protagonist, whether she knows him from before or it's the first time she's seeing a person for a long time. Putting two and two together, she understands the protagonist wants the gate to open, which she confirms by looking at the protagonist once more before doing so. Her weak and flexible arm suggests that she doesn't have any bones in them. However, she manages to grip the lever, suggesting that she has joints in her fingers. What is the most perplexing part of this interaction is that she lingers before leaving and gives the protagonist a good look. A last lingering look could also show interest, but an interest to someone or something that is well known. Therefore, Kissy Missy shows interest beyond a general interest to any typical person. She gives the protagonist a last long look, depicting she's personally interested in him. Something that hasn't been talked about enough is also why she leaves rather than just staying and getting acquainted with the protagonist. If she's interested in him, or even according to the other theory, obeys the demands of Playtime Co. When generally someone leaves and doesn't want to stay close to someone, it is interpreted as being scared, resentful, or uninterested in them. We know by now that Kissy Missy is in fact interested or at least intrigued by the protagonist, but maybe she
Not
knows
going
what the
off. Huggy
protagonist
Wuggy
is
himself.
capable of, leading to her making the
Not the
decision to stay
party.
away from him.
Not
Maybe
party
the
of
protagonist
Kiss
did in
Missy.
fact experiment on
Yes.
children and adults, transforming them into abominations and monsters, who they would later on enslave and conduct more experiments on. Maybe Kissy Missy had a kind and pure personality. Maybe she was a child who formed a bond with the protagonist back when he was carrying out an experiment on her. After all, the child was an orphan and sought the approval and love of any adult who showed her slightest amount of attention and care. Maybe the test subject who eventually became Kissy Missy saw the protagonist as a father figure. Even though the protagonist
A
betrayed her
motherfucker.
trust and committed
What the
such
heck?
an atrocity
What
of
the heck
conducting an
is a
experiment on her, the
motherfucker?
consciousness of this test subject, now being Kissy Missy, showed kindness to him and opened the way for him. I know this sounds a little far-fetched and there's not much evidence backing this little story, but only imagine if that is the case. It would explain Kissy Missy's reaction perfectly. Kissy Missy comes to the
Kiss
protagonist, but
Missy
instead of
actions.
quickly opening the gate, gives him a good look,
Ew.
recognizing him and tilting her head to what he has succumbed to and how desperate he is to escape, or how the tables have turned. She confirms with him it is the gate that he wants to be opened. Despite being resentful, she helps him, but not before giving him a long last look, remembering all the past memories and their history. However, she doesn't stay. She leaves quickly as she doesn't want to stay with him, as she's resentful and seems to have moved on from her horrible past experiences. She might be even confused to why the protagonist doesn't seem to remember what happened, as if he actually would. He would never step inside the factory swarmed with angry, hostile dolls that he participated in experimenting on them. Anyway, that's my
Angry
interpretation, but
dolls
guessing to
with
help the protagonist instead of
experiments
killing
on
him.
them?
I'd love to hear your
That makes
theories and
sense.
ideas, so make sure to leave them in the comment section or on my Twitter by tagging me or sending me a message, as it would be much easier to see them there. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one.
Okay, let's one.
It's undeniable that a large number of toys in the Playtime Co. are alive who went through cruel experiments to become the way they are. Children and some other staff were experimented on in order to achieve something unnatural, stemming from the madness of one individual by the name of Elliot Ludwig, who wanted to bring his child back to life. But the question remains, how did they come back to life and embody the menacing toys of Playtime Co.? Hi folks, I'm R, and welcome to the video. Make sure to send me your theories and ideas on Twitter so I can take a look at them and maybe put them up in the upcoming videos. This video will have spoilers. With that said, let's begin.
How the toys came
It
to
doesn't
life.
take long before the protagonist and
Oh,
us as players come to the terrifying conclusion
I
that
see
the
you
toys
mean.
within the Playtime Co factory are alive and tend to be very hostile. The first chapter is experienced through the perspective of the unknown and mysterious protagonist who has chased
I
an
think the choice
oversharing
is
living
actually,
doll known
it
as
must be
Huggy
believed
Wuggy.
to be seen.
Huggy, despite wearing a fluffy and soft skin, has a large mouth lined with sharp teeth and
For
fangs. He salivates excessively as well,
the
as if he's
imagination,
hungry, having a functional
for
digestive
the
system. In
experiment,
the second chapter, the
for the
protagonist
experiment
faces
that
Mummy
we
Longlegs, who bleeds after being
for
crushed. Screaming and shouting in
orphans
pain
or
while suffering
children
a slow,
in the game.
inevitable death, Mummy's voice distorts and then subsequently is disabled as if her voice box was destroyed. Something that we'll get back to later. Alongside
Oh,
Mummy Longlegs, the
imagery
protagonist
see
also
it as the
witnesses how the
emotion's
entity seen
voice.
partially through his arm, only referred to as the
Oh, what is
prototype
happening
of
here now?
Experiment 1006. The arm doesn't have any skin or exterior that again Mummy did, exposing what can be seen inside these toys. The arm shows a mixture of human body parts, anatomical vascular system, circulating blood, and mechanical parts, displaying how these toys were brought to life. After toys such as Huggy Wuggy and Mummy Longlegs also possess such properties of the arm, they probably also have vessels delivering blood into different parts of the body, which could also mean that they can breathe. As the primary goal of circulating blood through vessels is to deliver oxygen to organs and tissues. This can be seen in the game as the toys do bleed when they suffer an injury. Huggy Wuggy bled when hitting the rails when
Wuggy,
falling
Wuggy.
down, and Mummy also bled whilst being crushed by the gears. That's why we can also observe so much blood around the commissioned and destroyed toys around the factory, leading me to believe that they also share resemblance to the other toys such as Huggy Wuggy and Mummy Longlegs, having some sort of cardiovascular system. If the red fluid oozing out of the toys isn't blood, the second best theory is the puppy flower mixture Elliot Ludwig used in experiment 814 on a rat. However, it doesn't explain why the arm had blue vessels, which are a representation of veins taking back the oxygenated blood back to the heart. To break this down, blood needs to be oxygenated to deliver oxygen. And after the delivery, it needs to go back to be
Pour
reoxygenated. But if the
blood on
dolls
his
run out
leg.
of puppy mixture fluid, the
Pants.
magical properties of the
Ew.
flower would allow the dolls to
That's
function
not
on
blood.
their own, and
Sorry.
it probably wouldn't work like blood, needing oxygen. Elliot Ludwig, the founder of Playtime Co., is described to be a divorced man who tragically lost a member of his close family. Which, despite his despair, he
Oh,
continued on with working in
the
Playtime
last
Co.
of
and
the
bringing new
Grove
toys
family.
to the market.
That
Something that
makes
can
sense.
only be unveiled through inspecting his personal office, as then Elliot was secretly experimenting with life and death in hopes of reviving a dead organism. One of his earlier experiments, known as 814, involved a live
A
rat that
four
was
four.
killed and kept in a gel mixture having poppy flower extract. The rat was then shocked, but it appeared
A
to be
twelve
still
four.
unresponsive.
Uh,
The note entailing this information goes on to explain that more experiments were to
experiment
be carried out
814.
on larger organisms. I used to believe Elliot Ludwig wanted to make dolls super realistic and make them human like after analyzing some dialogues. But after a short documentary about him and the experiment 814 note, it led me to believe that his primary goal was to bring his dead family member back to
It's just
life.
like,
As he was a
let me
divorced
go.
man, it's likely the close family
In
that
the
was
code,
talked about
actually.
is no other than his
What?
child. That's when
Doesn't
Elliot
make,
and his
doesn't
team
make
started a
sense.
program to help orphans get
Is it parents
adopted.
or
But the dark
monsters?
intention for this was not to actually help the orphans, but to use certain suitable candidates from them for his twisted experiments. Their suitability was examined by putting them through three initial tests disguised as games to analyze certain traits and behaviors such as strength, agility, reaction, composure, and much more. These qualities seemingly play a major role in deciding who
Oh,
would
the
show better
games.
results in the experimentations. The children were possibly killed and experimented on to see if they could be brought back to life, or maybe
I
they
see
used
you
certain
mean.
parts of their
The
bodies to
experiments of the
attach to
games
mechanical
for
parts
monsters.
covered inside toys in order
Doesn't
to
make
bring them
sense.
back to life. Maybe they still didn't have the right technology to independently revive corpses and relied on other tools to keep them alive. For example, the brain of a child was used, but instead of the heart, they incorporated a mechanical part to push the blood around. That is why they decided to merge them with toys and cover the twisted experiments with fluffy exteriors. In a trailer for maintenance of dolls, a tool is pulled out of puppy doll while it's attached to gooey and bloody insides. The tool seems to be a voice box, especially as it seems to have a cord attached to it. This explains why Mommy's voice became distorted and eventually became disabled while being crushed. Her voice box, possibly placed in her lower part, got crushed as well, and her voice was distorted as a result. Therefore, the children were used as test subjects, initially in order to find a way to bring Elliot Ludwig's child back to life. As the organization
Wait a
didn't have the
minute.
right
If Elliot
technology,
Lovett
they
child
relied
is
on
coming
using mechanical parts
coming
alongside other
to
parts of
life,
human body,
what's
merging them together
what's
to create
happening?
the
What's happening right
abomination
now?
that they are now. They were all conditioned to obey the organization's demands, with Experiment 1170, Huggy Wuggy, becoming the optimal
Oh,
experiment result, being
one
sufficiently intelligent and
experiment
extremely
one one
obedient.
seven
That's
zero.
why he was
That
used
makes
as a
sense.
guard in the
Okay.
first chapter to intercept and stop any intruders. Mummy Longlegs, being Experiment
Experiment
1222,
one
was
two two
conditioned by
two.
using children as bait to make her
How
become
all the
more
makes sense
obedient.
of
However,
experiment
with
one
experiment known
two
as
two two.
1006, the prototype showed extreme resilience
And
and did
it'd be
not
like
want to be subjected to suppression
experiment
and
one zero
obedience.
zero
After many
six.
failed escape attempts, he finally managed to escape and even saved the other lives in the factory, with the other lives seemingly being the other experiments or dolls. Poppy flower seems to be the reason so many of the dead children and test subjects have come back to life, as the telltale signs are hinting that way, with poppy flower being a symbol commonly used in the factory. As the technology was not advanced enough, the organization used other mechanical parts to correspondingly work with the human parts and keep them running. I'm not worried about myself. One breakthrough and I'll be back. We must forge onwards in the name of science. Those who believe us, understand it or not. That's why the dolls are alive instead of
And that's
corpses just
not.
coming back to
What?
life with no mechanical parts. The extent of cruelty of Playtime Co. is only
I
shown
don't
to
know.
some
I
degree
just don't
and
know
seems to go even
what's
deeper
going
and
on
be
with
more
them.
twisted. We're only going to figure out more after Chapter 3 is released. Until then, we can only speculate and overanalyze small, teeny-meeny details. And that's it for today's video, folks. If you enjoyed that, stick around by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host, Star, and I will see you on the next one.
I guess I say for accent of why Mummy Alex is bad, why Kids Music help us, and how the toys become alive. I this guys a good episode. So in the next extra video, it's gonna be of more, more Battle for the Marlins episode 8 and 9. And it means like what's it please? Alright, so and in next action video, I'll be actions of Circle of Life and Rob Namia. So yeah, that's gonna take you appreciate. I think I think in the next video. So let's go smack the like button. Let's smack the like button, subscribe, and notification bell with you. So yeah, thanks you guys in this video. So yeah, this is guys in this video. Back back is Valerio.